Elena Vasquez walked through the shining halls of Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. Her footsteps echoed against the crystal walls as she made her way to the meeting chamber. Today, like every day for the past 5 years, she would sit and listen to alien species talk about humans like they were children. The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from over 300 different species. Elena took her seat in the small section marked for humanity. Around her sat the giants of galactic politics. The tall, blue-skinned Zephyrians controlled most trade routes. The insect-like HFY ran the largest military force. The Crystal, beings called Altarians, managed galactic communications. Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrians stood at the center podium. His forearms gestured as he spoke about trade agreements. The humans have again requested better shipping lanes to their outer colonies, he said with what Elena had learned was the Zephyrian version of a laugh. Perhaps they should focus on making their technology less primitive before asking for premium routes. Elena kept her face calm. She had practiced this expression for years. Around the chamber, other species nodded in agreement. They all saw the same thing when they looked at human space. 12 small worlds on the edge of the galaxy, mining operations that barely made enough money to survive. Agricultural planets that grew simple crops. A few dozen patrol ships that looked like they were held together with metal scraps. What they did not see was the truth. Elena touched a small device hidden in her sleeve. Across the galaxy, deep underground on a world called New Geneva, construction, crews were putting the finishing touches on the largest starship engine ever built. The engine was bigger than most space stations. It would soon push an entire planet through space at speeds that would make the Council's fastest ships look slow. Ambassador Vasquez, Chancellor Vextar called out. Does humanity have anything to add to this discussion? Elena stood up slowly. We understand the Council's concerns about our capabilities, she said. We only ask that you remember we have been good members of this community for 200 years. The HFY military commander, General Theknor, made a clicking sound. With his mandibles. It was their way of showing disrespect. Good members who contribute little, he said. Your mining operations produce barely enough to cover your own needs. Your military could not defend against a single one of our patrol groups. Elena nodded humbly. We do our best with what we have, General. What the General did not know was that human mining operations had been hollow for over a century. Instead of digging for metals, human workers had been carefully removing the inside of entire planets. Where alien observers expected to see simple mining equipment, there were actually fusion reactors the size of mountains. Where they thought they saw storage facilities for crops, there were weapons that could crack moons in half. The meeting continued for another hour. Species after species talked about their great achievements. The Altarians had built a communication network that connected every world in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had trade ships that could cross from one end of known space to the other in weeks. The HFY had war fleets that had never lost a battle. Elena listened and smiled politely. She knew things they could not imagine. She knew that human ships had been secretly mapping every trade route for decades. She knew that human engineers had studied every alien technology and made it better. She knew that what the galaxy thought were human cargo ships were actually carrying pieces of the most advanced weapons ever created. When the meeting ended, Elena walked back to her small quarters in the diplomatic district. She sat at her desk and opened a secure communication channel. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Admiral Sarah Chen, the woman in charge of humanity's greatest secret. How did it go today? Admiral Chen asked. The same as always, Elena replied. They think we are harmless farmers and miners. General Theknor made jokes about our military again. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. Let him make his jokes while he can. The final preparations are almost complete. In 6 months, the galaxy will learn what humans can really do. Elena nodded. Are all 12 planets ready? New Geneva finished its engine tests yesterday. Haven completed its weapon systems last week. The others are close behind. 200 years of work is about to pay off. Elena closed the communication and looked out her window at Nexus Prime's beautiful skyline. The aliens had built amazing cities and incredible technology. They had explored the galaxy and made contact with hundreds of species. They had created art and music and literature that filled vast libraries. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had looked at humanity and seen only what humans wanted them to see. From the very first day humans had made contact with alien species, human leaders had made a decision. They would appear weak and primitive. They would ask for help with simple problems. They would act grateful for small gifts of technology. They would make the galaxy believe that humans were just another minor species that would never be a threat. While the aliens watched and judged and dismissed, humans had been learning. Every piece of alien technology that was gifted to humanity was taken apart and studied. Every trade agreement gave humans access to new materials and new knowledge. Every dismissive comment from alien leaders told humans exactly what the galaxy expected from them, and humans had given the galaxy exactly what it expected to see. The 12 worlds that aliens thought were simple human colonies were actually the most advanced construction projects in galactic history. Each planet had been carefully hollowed out over decades. Millions of humans had worked in secret, building weapons and engines and life support systems that made alien technology look primitive. The planets themselves would become ships. Each one would be 12,000 kilometers across and carry millions of people. They would have weapons that could destroy entire fleets and shields that could stop any attack. They would be faster than anything else in space and tougher than any fortress ever built. Elena thought about the Kethvar general who had mocked human military strength. Soon, he would see what human military strength really looked like. She thought about Chancellor Vextar, who had laughed at human technology. Soon, he would understand that humans had technology the galaxy had never imagined. But most of all, she thought about the choice humanity would soon have to make. The planet ships would give humans the power to conquer the entire galaxy. No alien military could stand against them. No alien world could hide from them. Humans could rule everything if they wanted to. The question was whether they would want. Elena touched her communication device again. Across human space on 12 hidden worlds, millions of people were preparing for the day when they would no longer have to pretend to be weak. Engineers were making final checks on weapons that could crack planets. Pilots were training to fly ships the size of moons. Soldiers were practicing with armor and weapons that would make them nearly invincible. The galaxy had 200 years to learn what humanity was capable of. They had chosen not to look closely enough to see the truth. Soon, they would learn the price of that mistake. Elena smiled as she prepared for sleep. Tomorrow she would sit in the council chamber again and listen to aliens dismiss human capabilities. She would nod politely and act grateful for their attention. But inside, she would be counting down the days until the galaxy learned that humans were not the species they appeared to be. The deception was almost over. Soon the truth would be impossible to hide. Emperor Kethvar stood in his war room looking at the holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of his fleets. Green dots showed allied worlds. And scattered along the outer rim, like tiny specks of dust, were the yellow dots that marked human colonies. They spread too quickly, the Emperor said to his generals. 50 years ago, humans had 3 worlds. Now they have 12. Soon they will have 20, then 50. General Theknor clicked his mandibles in agreement. My intelligence reports show they are using primitive generation ships to establish new colonies. Slow, inefficient, but they keep sending them out. The Emperor's 4 eyes focused on the yellow dots. Each one represented what his scouts reported as a simple mining or farming world. Humans were like insects, he thought. Not dangerous individually, but they reproduced quickly and spread everywhere. The Galactic Council moves too slowly, the Emperor continued. By the time they decide to limit human expansion, it will be too late. We must act now. General Zekval, the youngest of the Kethvar military leaders, shifted nervously. Your Majesty, attacking without council approval could cause political problems. Many species might object. Emperor Kethvar turned his massive form toward the younger general. Many species will thank us when we prevent a human plague from spreading across their borders. Besides, what can the humans do? Their entire military could not defeat a single one of our battle groups. The Emperor was not wrong to be confident. The Kethvar Empire had the strongest military in known space. Their warships were enormous. metal fortresses bristling with weapons. Each dreadnought was the size of a small city and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. The humans, according to every intelligence report, had patrol boats and cargo ships that looked like they were built from scrap metal. "Begin Operation Cleansing Wind," the Emperor commanded. 3 battle groups should be enough. Hit their most important colonies first: New Geneva, Haven, and Kepler Station. Once those worlds fall, the other colonies will surrender. The generals saluted and left to prepare their fleets. Within hours, Kethvar dreadnoughts were moving toward human space. Each battle group contained 50 warships, thousands of fighters, and enough firepower to reduce planets to burning rocks. Captain Thane Okafor commanded the flagship Endless Dominion, leading the force assigned to attack New Geneva. He had studied the intelligence reports about the target. New Geneva was supposed to be a mining world with about 2 million humans. The planet had no visible defenses and no military installations. His instruments showed only the heat signatures of small towns and mining equipment. "This should be over quickly," Thane told his bridge crew as they approached the human world. "The humans probably do not even have early warning systems. We will destroy their orbital facilities first, then demand surrender." The Kethvar fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Geneva system. Thane expected to see a few human cargo ships and maybe a patrol boat or two. Instead, his sensors detected something unexpected. "Captain," his weapons officer called out, "I am reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface." Thane frowned. "Mining equipment can generate significant power. Do not worry about it." But as the fleet moved closer to New Geneva, the energy readings grew stronger. Thane had attacked dozens of worlds in his career, and he had never seen readings like these. The power output from the planet's surface was comparable to a major space station or military base. "Begin bombardment," Thane ordered. "Target the largest population centers first." The Endless Dominion and its escort ships fired their main guns. Streams of plasma energy lanced down toward New Geneva's surface, carrying enough power to melt entire city blocks. The weapons had never failed to devastate their targets. But something impossible happened. Instead of exploding in fireballs, the plasma beams struck invisible barriers and scattered like water hitting a rock. Massive shield generators were rising from beneath the planet's surface, creating protective fields that covered the entire world. "What in the name of the void?" Thane whispered. The shields were not just stopping the Kethvar weapons. They were absorbing the energy and redirecting it harmlessly into space. Thane had seen the best defensive systems the galaxy had to offer, and none of them could handle a full dreadnought bombardment so easily. Then the planet began to move. At first, Thane thought his instruments were malfunctioning. Planets did not move. They orbited their stars in predictable patterns that never changed. But his sensors were not lying. New Geneva was shifting in its orbit, turning to face the Kethvar fleet. "Captain," his navigation officer called out in a shaking voice, "the planet is accelerating toward us." Thane looked at his tactical display and felt fear creep into his mind. The energy readings from New Geneva were increasing rapidly. What he had thought were mining installations were powering up like weapons systems. The heat signatures he had mistaken for small towns were actually massive engine exhausts. "All ships, emergency retreat," Thane commanded. "Get us away from that thing immediately." But it was too late for a clean escape. As New Geneva continued to turn, sections of its surface began to open like gigantic doors. The planet's crust split apart to reveal weapon systems that dwarfed anything on Thane's ships. Gun batteries the size of mountains emerged from hidden chambers. Missile launchers that could have swallowed his dreadnought whole rose from beneath fake oceans. The planet was not a planet at all. It was a ship. The largest, most heavily armed ship Thane had ever seen. A communication signal reached the Kethvar fleet. The voice that spoke was calm and human, with the accent Thane recognized as coming from the Sol system. "Kethvar vessels, this is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the planet ship Terra Invicta. You have attacked a human world without provocation. You have 30 seconds to begin retreat procedures before we respond." Thane's mind reeled. Planet ship? That was impossible. No species had the technology to convert an entire world into a Starship. The engineering challenges alone would be beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. This is Captain Thane Okafor, he replied. You cannot be serious. Planets do not become ships. Captain, Admiral Chen's voice replied. You are about to learn that your understanding of what is possible has been severely limited. Terra Invicta fired a single weapon. It was not the massive gun batteries that had emerged from the planet's surface. It was something smaller, almost elegant in its simplicity. A beam of focused energy reached out across space and touched the endless Dominion shields. The Dreadnought's defensive systems, which had never failed in 3 decades of service, collapsed instantly. The beam continued through the ship's armor, as if it were paper, and disabled the main engines without harming the crew. Your ship is now helpless, Admiral Chen continued. Your weapons are offline, your engines are dead, but your life support is intact. We could have destroyed you completely, but we chose not to. Consider this a demonstration of human mercy. Thane looked at his instrument panels. Every system his weapons officer tried to activate failed to respond. The ship that had been the pride of the Kethavar fleet was now floating dead in space, completely at the mercy of the humans. How, was all Thane could manage to say. Captain, humanity has been preparing for this day for 200 years. Every piece of technology you have shared with us, we have improved. Every weakness in your designs, we have corrected. Every limit you thought was absolute, we have surpassed. Around the system, Thane could see the other 2 battle groups were experiencing similar fates. The planets Haven and Kepler Station were also moving, also revealing themselves to be massive warships. The entire Kethavar attack force was being disabled by 3 worlds that were not supposed to have any defenses at all. Withdraw your forces, Admiral Chen commanded. Return to your Emperor and tell him that humanity is no longer the species he thinks we are. Tell him that we have grown tired of being underestimated. As the Kethavar ships limped away from human space, their engines barely functional, Thane tried to process what he had witnessed. The humans had hidden an entire fleet of planet-sized warships. They had technology that made Kethavar weapons look primitive. They had planned this deception for centuries. The galaxy was about to learn that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 1,000-year history. Representatives from 300 species packed into the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, all talking at once in dozens of different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the chaos. Chancellor Vextar struck the ceremonial gong repeatedly, trying to restore order. Silence! We must have order! At the center of the chamber, a massive holographic display showed real-time footage from the edge of the galaxy. 12 worlds that had been marked as simple human colonies were now moving through space like ships. Each planet-sized vessel was surrounded by energy fields that made them glow like small stars. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat calmly in the human section, watching as alien representatives pointed at her and shouted accusations in their native tongues. For 200 years, she and her predecessors had sat in these same seats, pretending to be humble representatives of a minor species. Today, that pretense was over. Order! Chancellor Vextar shouted again. Ambassador Vasquez, the Council, demands an explanation for this deception. Elena stood slowly, her movements deliberate and calm. Every eye in the chamber focused on her as she activated her personal communication device. The chamber's main display switched to show a signal coming directly from human space. The face that appeared was Admiral Sarah Chen, broadcasting from the bridge of Terra Invicta. Behind her, through enormous viewing windows, the stars moved. As the planet ship traveled through space at speeds that should have been impossible for something so massive. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Admiral Chen began. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, Fleet Commander of the Human Defense Force. I speak to you from the bridge of Terra Invicta, one of 12 planet-class vessels now protecting human space. The chamber erupted in shouting again. Representative Clickstall of the Altarians raised his crystalline form and projected his voice across the chamber. This is impossible. No species has the technology to convert planets into starships. Admiral Chen smiled. Representative Kleixtal, your species taught us about artificial gravity generation 50 years ago. We improved on your designs and created gravity manipulation systems that can move entire worlds. We are grateful for your instruction. The Altarian representative's crystal body flickered with embarrassment. Our technology cannot do what you are showing us. No, Admiral Chen agreed. Your technology cannot. But human improvements to your technology can. We have taken the scientific gifts that many of your species have shared with us over the centuries and combined them in ways you never imagined. General Theknor, who had arrived on Nexus Prime only hours earlier with news of the failed attack, stood and pointed one of his forearms at the display. You have deceived the entire galaxy. You pretended to be primitive while building weapons of mass destruction. Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. General, your fleets attacked human worlds without provocation and without council authorization. You believed we were helpless, so you tried to destroy us. You learned that our appearance of weakness was carefully constructed. Elena activated another control, and the main display split to show all 12 planet ships. Each one was moving through space in perfect formation, their massive engines creating trails of light that could be seen from star systems away. The planet ship New Olympus has a population of 12 million humans. Admiral Chen continued. Its main weapon can move moons from their orbits without destroying them. The planet ship Liberty carries the largest manufacturing facilities ever built. It can construct 1,000 fighter craft in a single day. Representative Korthak of VU, the Hegemony Trade Union, spoke up. The resources required for such construction would be enormous. Our economic models show that human colonies barely produce enough to sustain themselves. Elena smiled for the first time since the session began. Representative Korthak, those economic models are based on false data that we carefully provided to your trade analysts for over a century. Human mining operations produced 50 times more resources than we reported. Human agricultural worlds fed not just our visible populations, but millions of construction workers living in underground cities. The trade union representative's skin changed color, a sign of distress in his species. You have been lying to us for generations. We have been surviving, Elena replied. Every species in this chamber is thousands of years older than humanity. You have technologies we could never have developed on our own. You have military forces that could have destroyed us easily if you had seen us as a threat. So we made. Sure, you did not see us as a threat. Admiral Chen spoke again from the display. We studied every species in the galaxy. We learned your strengths and your weaknesses. We observed how you treated species you considered inferior. We decided that appearing weak was safer than appearing strong. Chancellor Vextar finally managed to speak. What do you want from us now? Do you plan to conquer the galaxy with these weapons? The chamber fell silent as every representative waited for the answer. Elena looked around the room at faces that showed fear, anger, and confusion. These were the same beings who had dismissed human requests for fair treatment for 2 centuries. We want what we have always wanted, Elena said. Fair treatment, equal representation in council decisions, trade agreements that benefit all parties instead of exploiting human resources, an end to the assumption that newer species are automatically inferior to older ones. Representative Yilmoth of the Scientific Collective spoke up. But surely you realize that these weapons change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted completely. Admiral Chen nodded. Yes, it has. But consider this. We could have revealed these capabilities by conquering Nexus Prime and demanding submission from every species in the galaxy. Instead, we revealed them by defending ourselves against an unprovoked attack. We chose to demonstrate restraint. Elena activated another display showing the Kethvar fleet that had attacked New Geneva. The ships were limping back toward their home space, their engines damaged, but their crews unharmed. General Theknor's forces attacked human worlds with enough firepower to kill millions of civilians, Elena said. Our planet ships disabled his fleet without destroying a single enemy vessel or killing a single Kethvar soldier. This was a deliberate choice. The general's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of nervous energy. Your technology is beyond anything we understood was possible. How do we know you will not use it for conquest in the future? Admiral Chen leaned forward toward her camera. General, humanity has been capable of conquering the galaxy for the past 50 years. If we wanted to rule over other species, we would have done so already. Instead, we chose to continue the deception and hope that diplomatic solutions could be found. Elena stood and walked to the center of the chamber. The question now is whether the galaxy can accept humanity as an equal partner, or whether you will force us to use our capabilities to defend ourselves against continued aggression. Chancellor Vextar looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. What assurances can you give us that humanity will not use these weapons for offensive purposes? The same assurances that every other species in this council provides, Elena replied. Our word, backed by our actions. We have revealed our true capabilities in response to an attack, not as a prelude to conquest. We disabled enemy forces instead of destroying them. We are here talking instead of demanding surrender. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then Representative Klickstahl spoke again. The scientific collective moves to grant humanity full council membership with voting rights proportional to population and resource contribution. The trade union seconds the motion, Representative Korthak added quickly. One by one, species that had dismissed humanity for centuries began voicing their support for full human membership in galactic society. Even General Theknor eventually raised one of his arms in agreement, though Elena could see the fear in his multiple eyes. As the vote was taken and humanity was formally granted equal status in the galaxy, Elena looked up at the display showing Admiral Chen. The planet ships were still visible behind the Admiral, massive reminders of human capabilities. But Elena was thinking about something else. She was thinking about the conversation she had had with Admiral Chen just before this session began. The Admiral had mentioned that the 12 planet ships were just the first phase of human preparations. Elena wondered what the galaxy would think when they learned about Phase 2. Emperor Kethavar sat on his throne, watching the tactical displays that surrounded him in his war room. The humans had humiliated his forces, but they had also made a crucial mistake. They had revealed their capabilities too early. Mobilize the Yao. Grand Fleet, the Emperor commanded. Every available warship, every battle station, every weapon we possess. General Theknor shifted nervously. Your Majesty, perhaps we should negotiate. The human planet ships are unlike anything we have ever faced. The Emperor's 4 eyes glared at his general. 12 ships, no matter how large, cannot stand against the combined might of the Kethavar Empire. We have 3,000 warships. We have fortress worlds with weapons that can crack continents. We have allies who will support us once they realize the human threat. But the Emperor was wrong about his allies. Across the galaxy, species that had initially supported the attack on humanity were quietly withdrawing their forces. The footage of human planet ships disabling entire Kethver battle groups with single weapon shots had spread through every communication network in known space. The Zephyrians had immediately recalled their fleets to defend their trade routes. The Altarians were offering to share their most advanced technologies with humanity in exchange for defensive agreements. Even the warrior clans of the Rigel system were sending diplomatic messages to human space, asking for non-aggression pacts. Emperor Kethavar did not care about the fears of other species. He had built the largest military force in galactic history, and he would not let a handful of human ships destroy his empire's reputation. The planet ship New Olympus dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Barakesh system. Admiral Maria Santos, commanding the vessel, looked at the tactical display showing her target. Barakesh was not just a military base. It was a fortress moon that had been reinforced over 3,000 years. Layer upon layer of armor covered weapons systems that could destroy entire fleets. The moon had never fallen to any attack in its history. Captain Reynolds, Admiral Santos called to her tactical officer. What is the status of the Kethvar defenses? Captain Reynolds studied his instruments. Admiral, I count over 500 weapon platforms on the moon's surface. The fortress itself is protected by energy shields that could stop a direct hit from a supernova. Their main gun is charging up now. It appears to be some kind of directed energy weapon that could punch through a planet's crust. Admiral Santos nodded. And their fleet? 237 warships in defensive formation around the moon. 16 dreadnoughts, 43 heavy cruisers, and the rest are support vessels. The numbers would have been terrifying to any conventional military force. The Kethvar had assembled enough firepower to destroy most star systems. But New Olympus was not a conventional warship. "Open a communication channel to the fortress," Admiral Santos ordered. The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to Fortress Commander Veltar, a Kethvar veteran whose battle scars told the story of a lifetime spent in warfare. "Human vessel," Commander Veltar said. "You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Barakesh has never fallen to any enemy, and it will not fall to you." Admiral Santos smiled politely. "Commander, I am Admiral Maria Santos of the human planet ship, New Olympus. I am here to demonstrate why Emperor Kethvar should agree to an immediate ceasefire. I would prefer to do this without loss of life." Commander Veltar's mandibles clicked in what Admiral Santos recognized as Kethvar laughter. "One ship against the greatest fortress in the galaxy. Human, your arrogance will be your destruction." The fortress moon opened fire first. The main gun, which had taken an hour to charge, released a beam of energy that could have melted a normal planet's surface. Hundreds of smaller weapons joined the attack, creating a wall of destruction that rushed toward New Olympus. The planet ship did not even slow down. Its shields absorbed the incoming energy and redirected it harmlessly into space. The weapons that could have destroyed entire fleets barely made the shield energy readings flicker. "Impressive," Admiral Santos commented to her bridge crew. "Their main weapon has about 1/10 the power output of our point defense systems." New Olympus continued its approach toward Barakesh. The Kethvar fleet moved to intercept, their ships spreading out to create overlapping fields of fire. Admiral Santos watched calmly as 237 warships prepared to attack her single vessel. "Launch fighters," she ordered. Across the surface of New Olympus, bays that were larger than most space stations opened to reveal the planet ship's fighter complement. What emerged was not the few dozen small craft that a normal warship might carry. Instead, thousands of fighter craft poured out of the planet ship's bays like a swarm of metal insects. Each human fighter was the size of a Kethvar patrol boat and carried weapons that would have been considered heavy ship armaments by galactic standards. They moved with speed and precision that made even the best Kethvar pilots look clumsy. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Commander Veltar watched from his fortress as his entire fleet was systematically disabled. The human fighters did not destroy the Kethvar ships. Instead, they used precision strikes to knock out engines, weapons, and shields, while leaving life support systems intact. In less than 20 minutes, over 200 warships were floating helpless in space. "This is impossible," Commander Veltar whispered to his staff. "Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy." But even as he spoke, he knew he was wrong. The technology displayed by the humans was beyond anything the Kethvar had imagined possible. Their fighters moved like they could predict where enemy weapons would fire before the weapons were even aimed. Their shields seemed to make them completely invulnerable to attack. "Commander," his weapons officer called out, "the human ship is approaching the fortress. Should we continue firing?" Commander Veltar looked at his displays. The fortress weapons were still operational, but they had been completely ineffective against the human vessel. Continuing to attack would only waste ammunition. "Hold fire," he ordered. New Olympus came to a stop directly in front of Barakesh, close enough that the fortress moon was visible through the planet ship's viewing ports. Then Admiral Santos demonstrated why human technology was truly beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The planet ship fired a single weapon. It was not the massive gun batteries that covered its surface. It was not the missile systems that could launch planet-killer warheads. Instead, it was something that looked almost like a communications array. The beam that reached out from New Olympus was not destructive. It was a focused gravity manipulator that grabbed hold of Barakesh's mass and began to move it. The fortress, moon, which weighed billions of tons and had been locked in orbit for thousands of years, was gently lifted from its position and relocated to a nearby Lagrange point. Commander Veltar felt the fortress shudder as it was moved, but nothing inside was damaged. The artificial gravity systems continued to function normally. Life support remained stable. The fortress was completely intact, but it was no longer where it was supposed to be. "Admiral Santos," Commander Veltar said over the communication channel, "what have you done?" "I have moved your fortress to a position where it cannot threaten shipping lanes or attack civilian targets," Admiral Santos replied. "Your weapons are still functional, your crew is unharmed, but you are no longer in a strategically important location." Commander Veltar stared at his tactical displays. Moving a moon from its orbit should have required more energy than his entire star system could produce. The humans had done it casually, as if relocating celestial bodies was a simple engineering problem. "How is this possible?" he asked. "Commander, humanity has spent 2 centuries studying the fundamental forces of the universe. We have learned to manipulate gravity, space, and time in ways that other species consider impossible. What you have just witnessed is a very small demonstration of human capabilities." Emperor Kethvar's voice suddenly broke into the communication channel. "Admiral Santos, I am prepared to discuss terms for a ceasefire." Admiral Santos looked at the image of the Emperor that appeared on her screen. "Your Majesty, I am pleased to hear that. However, I should mention that New Olympus is just one of 12 planet ships. The others are currently positioning themselves around strategic locations throughout Kethvar space." The Emperor's expression changed as he realized what this meant. "You have surrounded our empire. We have positioned ourselves to prevent further aggression," Admiral Santos corrected. "If you agree to our terms, we will withdraw to human space, and this conflict will be over." Emperor Kethvar looked at the tactical displays around his throne. His greatest fortress had been casually relocated. His most powerful fleet had been disabled without suffering a single casualty. 12 human planet ships were scattered throughout his empire, each one capable of defeating his remaining forces. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Immediate ceasefire, withdrawal of all Kethvar forces from human space, payment of reparations for the unprovoked attack, and formal recognition of humanity's right to exist and expand freely in the galaxy." The Emperor considered his options. He could continue fighting and watch his empire be systematically dismantled by forces he could not defeat, or he could accept terms that would allow his people to survive. "I accept your terms," Emperor Kethvar said. Across the G, the shadow of Terra Invicta fell across Nexus Prime like a dark cloud covering the sun. The planet ship had taken position in orbit around the capital world of the Galactic Council, and its massive bulk was visible from every surface on the planet. Citizens of dozens of species stopped their daily activities to stare up at the sky and wonder what this meant for their future. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the halls of the council building with a confidence she had never been allowed to show before. Alien representatives who had once ignored her now stepped aside and bowed respectfully as she passed. The change in their behavior would have been amusing if it were not so revealing about galactic society. The main council chamber had been reconfigured for the emergency session that would reshape galactic politics. Instead of the small section that had been reserved for humanity, an entire wing of the chamber had been designated for the human delegation. Representatives from all 300 member species had demanded to attend, hoping to establish favorable relationships with the galaxy's new dominant power. Elena took her place at the center podium, the same position from which Chancellor Vexitar had dismissed human concerns for decades. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed real-time images from human space. The 12 planet ships were visible at strategic locations throughout the galaxy, each one serving as both a diplomatic platform and a reminder of human capabilities. "Honored representatives," Elena began, "3 months ago, many of you considered humanity to be a minor species worthy of only limited attention. Today, we gather to discuss a new framework for galactic cooperation based on mutual respect and equal partnership." Chancellor Vexitar, who had been reduced to the role of session moderator, activated the chamber's main display. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Council is prepared to hear humanity's proposals for restructuring galactic society." Elena smiled. The word proposals was diplomatic language for what everyone knew were actually demands backed by overwhelming force. But she appreciated the pretense of negotiation. Our first requirement is simple, Elena said. All species will be treated equally in council decisions, regardless of age, size, or technological development. The current system that gives preference to older species will be discontinued. Representative Korthak of the trade union raised one of his appendages. Ambassador, this change would affect thousands of existing agreements and treaties. Yes, it would, Elena agreed. Many of those agreements were negotiated under the assumption that some species were inherently superior to others. Those assumptions have proven to be incorrect. Elena activated a control, and the display showed economic data that made several representatives gasp in surprise. For the past century, humanity has been the largest producer of rare minerals in the galaxy. We have also been the largest manufacturer of advanced electronics. However, our official trade status listed us as a minor contributor to galactic commerce. The numbers were staggering. Human mining operations had been producing resources at levels that exceeded the output of entire star systems. Human primitive manufacturing had been creating technology that was then disguised and sold through intermediary species. This deception was necessary, Elena continued, because the existing trade system would have exploited human productivity while denying us fair compensation. Under the new system, all species will trade as equals, with profits distributed based on actual contribution rather than political status. Emperor Keithvar, attending the session via holographic projection from his throne world, spoke up. What guarantees do other species have that humanity will not use its technological advantages to dominate galactic trade? Elena looked directly at the Emperor's image. The same guarantees you provided when your empire dominated galactic military affairs for the past 3 centuries. Our word, backed by our actions. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice joined the conversation, from the bridge of Terra Invicta. Your Majesty, I should point out that humanity could have monopolized galactic trade at any time during the past 50 years. Instead, we chose to work within existing systems while preparing for the day when fair treatment would be possible. Representative Klixtal of the Scientific Collective activated his translation system. Admiral Chen, the scientific community, is eager to understand how humanity achieved such rapid technological advancement. Would you be willing to share your research methodologies? Admiral Chen nodded. Representative Klixtal, humanity will be happy to participate in joint research projects and share non-military technologies. However, we will not simply hand over our most advanced capabilities to species that might use them against us or others. Elena activated another display, showing a map of the galaxy with new territorial boundaries. Humanity claims no existing worlds belonging to other species. However, we do require access to uninhabited systems for continued expansion. The days when human exploration was restricted to the galactic rim are over. The map showed human expansion routes extending throughout the galaxy, including systems that had previously been reserved for advanced species only. Several representatives began talking at once, expressing concerns about human colonies in their traditional spheres of influence. Order, Chancellor Vexitar called out. Ambassador Vasquez, some species may object to human expansion into systems they consider to be within their cultural or strategic zones. Elena's expression hardened. Chancellor, those same species had no concerns about restricting human expansion to the least desirable regions of the galaxy. Cultural and strategic zones are concepts that apply equally to all species, or they apply to none. Representative Yilmoth of the Military Alliance stood up. What about defense agreements? Many species rely on mutual protection treaties that have existed for centuries. Admiral Chen answered from the display. Existing defense agreements will be honored, but humanity reserves the right to intervene in conflicts that threaten galactic stability. We will not stand by and watch aggressive species attack their neighbors, regardless of existing political arrangements. The threat was clear. Humanity would not tolerate the kind of unprovoked aggression that the Keithvar Empire had attempted. Any species that tried to conquer its neighbors would face the same overwhelming response that had ended the attack on human space. Elena looked around the chamber at faces that showed a mixture of fear, respect, and calculation. These were the same beings who had spent centuries dismissing human capabilities and potential. Now they were trying to figure out how to benefit from association with humanity, while avoiding becoming targets of human displeasure. There is one more thing the Council should understand, Elena said. The 12 planet ships you have seen represent only the first phase of human military development. The chamber fell completely silent. Every representative focused on Elena with the kind of attention usually reserved for natural disasters or declarations of war. Phase 2 construction will begin immediately, Elena continued. We will be building mobile space stations that make our current planet ships look small. These facilities will serve as manufacturing centers, research laboratories, and diplomatic platforms for human expansion throughout the galaxy. Representative Clixtel's crystalline form flickered with what Elena recognized as scientific excitement. How large will these new constructions be? Admiral Chen smiled from the display. Let me put it this way, Representative. The planet ship I am commanding has a diameter of 12,000 kilometers. Our Phase 2 projects will have diameters measured in astronomical units. The representatives began talking among themselves in dozens of languages, their translation systems struggling to keep up with the chaos. Elena let them process the implications for a moment before calling for attention again. Humanity has no desire to conquer or control other species, she said. But we will not return to the status of a minor power that can be ignored or attacked, at will. The galaxy has changed, and every species must adapt to that change. Chancellor Vexitar activated the voting system. The Council will now vote on humanity's proposals for restructuring galactic society. The vote was unanimous. Every species, including the Kethvar Empire, voted to accept the new order. They had no real choice, but Elena appreciated that they were willing to accept the changes peacefully. As the session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Elena looked up at the display showing Terra Invicta in orbit above them. She thought about the conversation she had had with Admiral Chen before the session began. Phase 2 was indeed beginning. But what the galaxy did not know was that Phase 3 had been in planning for decades. When it was complete, humanity would have capabilities that would make their current technological advantages look primitive. Elena smiled as she prepared to leave the chamber. The galaxy had spent 2 centuries underestimating humanity. Soon, they would learn that even their current understanding of human capabilities was just the beginning. A human child approached Elena as she walked through the diplomatic district. The little girl was visiting Nexus Prime with her parents, tourists who wanted to see the capital of galactic civilization. Ambassador Vasquez, the child said, my grandmother told me that we fooled everyone for 200 years. Is that true? Elena knelt down.